Chairman DeFazio, I can't say enough about the importance of this hearing. I appreciate you, Mr. Muhlenberg, being here. Ranking Member Graves asked, had you flown? I think you even said in your testimony that you had flown on the 737 MAX since the fixes or corrections have been made. That is your testimony.
Ma'am, yes, I've flown on a couple of test flights as part of that
Test flights.
process.
I understood that those to be test flights. But the chairman mentioned that we're trying to get to the roots of the problem so it doesn't happen again, so with FAA, so that airlines like Boeing. And so my questions really go to penalties, whether they have made any difference, penalties paid or outstanding, essentially to compliance, so that Congress can decide what, if anything, it can do. Everybody has an obligation here, Boeing, to be sure, but so does Congress. So the record I have, and I ask you, Mr. Muhlenberg, did Boeing enter into a settlement agreement with FAA in an effort to resolve what were then multiple enforcement cases against Boeing that were either pending or under investigation? That was in 2015.
Congresswoman, I'm not familiar with the details of that, although I'm aware
I simply asked,
of
did
an
you
agreement.
enter into settlement agreements? Surely you are, you know whether you entered into settlement agreements.
John,
I didn't ask you about the details.
Congresswoman, that is correct. We did enter a settlement agreement in 2015.
Thank you. Is it also true that Boeing had to immediately pay $12 million into the U.S. Treasury as a result?
That is correct.
Continuing, is it true that Boeing faced up to $24 million in additional penalties through 2020 if certain conditions were not met?
Yes, Congresswoman, in working with the FAA, they were really looking for creating a long-standing agreement with us to build a good foundation on elevating compliance.
I'm just asking you about the $24 million.
And
My time is limited. In additional penalties through 2020 if the conditions were not met.
there was
Wasn't that the agreement?
There was
the
a
understanding?
deferred penalty. Yes, there was a deferred penalty.
Now, I'm just going to list quickly the obligations: improved management and accountability, internal auditing, supplier management, more stringent quality and timeliness of regulatory submissions, simplified specifications. I could go on. These, you understood that that was the agreement. Those were the agreement. Yet in designing and developing and manufacturing the 737 MAX, Boeing has run into issues, problems, characterize them as you will, in meeting the obligations in most of these categories. Would you agree, Mr. Muhlenberg?
Congresswoman, we've identified many of those challenges through the MAX development program, and some of those are in the areas that...
And you've had issues in meeting them. Some of this has resulted in the problems that bring us here today.
Congresswoman, I can't give you any specific examples that link the two. I don't know, John, if you've got any
I didn't ask you
details on that.
Yeah, some of these agreements were agreements that you would make over the course of the 5 years. Each year, we provide a progress report to the FAA on our progress on that, and
Yeah.
there's still...
So I'm not saying you're not making progress, but I'm saying the issues, as you say, are in black and white.
There's still opportunity in the time remaining to meet all obligations of the settlement agreement.
Within the last decade, Boeing has had 2 worldwide groundings of relatively new airplanes, the 787 Dreamliner, the 737 MAX. and encountered many compliance issues in the time since Boeing paid that $12 million settlement payment, and I'm assuming it was paid. Has the FAA assessed any additional financial penalties on Boeing to the 2015 agreement?
No, we are not aware of any additional penalties.
Okay. Time of the gentle lady has expired. It would be first Mr. Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Molenberg, are you aware of any aviation accident that can be attributed to a single factor?
Congressman, no. I think the history of aviation shows that these accidents they're very unfortunate, but in many cases they involve multiple factors.
Mr. Hamilton, you agree with that?
Yes, as Ranking Member Graves pointed out, James Reason's Swiss cheese model, all accidents are typically due to a number of contributing causes.
The Indonesian National Transportation Safety Committee recently issued its final report into the Lion Air 610 flight, finding 9 contributing factors for the crash. Other than the design of the aircraft, those factors include the miscalibration of sensors during repairs, a lack of flight and maintenance documentation,